Right, alright. This hair. I should have properly taken care of the hair. This haircut I got was like a little unusual for me. It's like short but long at the same time. I don't know. My aunt said she was trying something new. And that's basically what happened. So, finish. Let's run these lights. I was just updating Lumia Stream, which is what powers all these beautiful colored lights behind me. Let's see. So I had said I'd spend the first bit of today talk about what's going on in thanks Lumia Stream for letting me know. Talk about what's going on with our legal system here in America. I've had a few friends reach out to me about it. In all fairness, I didn't go to law school or anything like that. I had a extremely elementary understanding of constitutional law in that the high school I attended had a law major, and so I took a bunch of law classes there. But taught by New York City Public School, like how much? No, it's not the equivalent of a law degree, but at the same time, I think it's super important that we understand what's going on in our country. For those of us that are Americans, and especially people who are not white landowning men. So essentially what's going on right now is a Supreme Court brief. So basically every time the Supreme Court makes a decision, they write a brief. And in the brief, there's usually a crazy mania. May the fourth be with you. I'm gonna be starting Star Wars pod racing in probably 30 minutes. For now, I'm gonna go over why we need the Force more now than ever here in the States, right? So if you're not familiar, the Supreme Court had not a political, well, feels political. They had a bit of a leak, which is unusual for the Supreme Court. Things are like super hush hush there. And COVID was the first time that anybody actually even got a glimpse into how cases are argued in the Supreme Court. So it's always been a thing where, no cameras are allowed, no recording devices. It's literally just like the people that do those courtroom sketches and the lawyers and the clerks who work for the Supreme Court justices and the justices themselves, right? And the whole idea is we know essentially what case they're being presented with, what the general argument is. You never get to hear the debates, right? And then when COVID happened, because everything was remote, now suddenly those debates were public, right? Like anybody could listen in and see what they were arguing, which was totally new for the Supreme Court. It's interesting too. It's like, I guess it's a lot more debating than I thought it would be. Literally knowing nothing about it, right? And so what happens is after everybody debates and they do what they call I forget what the official name is, but basically they present their arguments, the two sides of the two legal teams, and then the judges or the justices ask questions, right? So it's a little bit of Q&A, and then what happens is they adjourn, and then they do a little secret vote internally, and then based on the vote they write a brief. And the brief is essentially what doesn't become law, but it's what dictates our laws. Because essentially I explained to my friend, Supreme Court, they're basically the referees of the US government, right? It's like all the laws are made on either a state or federal level by the Congress, and either the governor or the president signs them into law, and then the Supreme Court and the judicial system in general comes in and acts as the referee. And they're like, nah, you broke some of the rules doing this law. or nah, like you're cool, the rules are all right, you did all right. And but like it's never happened before that the brief was leaked before like the official ruling, right, of the Supreme Court. And so it's interesting that it came out. There's a few arguments about why, right? But who cares about the why? It's out there. It's here. We can all read it, and it's very long. I actually read like I think I got about halfway through. It's 98 pages. I got about halfway through it last night, and then I was just like, you know what? Like I've had enough of your your argument here. So every Supreme Court brief, basically the way it starts with is there's like a summary of what the decision is that is written by the essentially majority. So you know the people that voted to well, it's the majority decision, right? So they write a summary, and then in addition to that summary, which is usually about like 3 pages, that's usually all that anybody ever reads in a Supreme Court brief. Like unless you are a lawyer looking to argue a case, you generally wouldn't read the rest of a brief, because it what the rest of it does is it goes into the reasoning, like what other cases that they've looked at to root their decision in, and you know what does it say in the Constitution, and what are the amendments that they're referencing in their decision. So it's basically, if you think of it like how you would write an essay, the first 3 pages is like the introduction, the summary, right? And then the rest of the document is the like evidence and essentially like the bibliography too, because they reference a lot of, like I said, a lot of other cases and legal precedents. But like I said, most people just read the summary and you move on. But the rest of it is super important because it tells you what they looked at to come to that decision. And if you've been paying attention to the news at all, the 14th Amendment is one of the major tentpoles that they are saying doesn't cover abortion. That's like the meat of their argument. There are many other amendments that they talk about. There's a lot of other cases too, a lot of other Supreme Court precedents that they talk about, especially in more modern times, which I thought was really interesting because you don't really see that too much. Like usually in a brief, they'll have like a couple of recent cases that they'll reference as part of their decision making, like how they got to their decision. And then, but for the most part, they tend to be older, right? Because in the Supreme Court, there's this idea of stare decisis, which means that unless there's like some new evidence that's come in, unless something has changed drastically, that whatever decision that has been made by past Supreme Court justices should stand. And given like the evidence in this case, there's not really any new evidence, which is why it's unusual that stare decisis isn't applying. But it's also not unusual. Like we know who these Supreme Court justices are. The last 4 are all part of this thing called the Federalist Society, I think it's called, where essentially it's an organization that it exists purely to enforce Christian values on our country. And you'll see that in America, a lot of conservatives will talk about, well, you know, we're a Christian nation. We're not. America literally was founded on religious freedoms because colonists were fleeing due to religious persecution. And so the freedom of religion, along with the freedom of the press, is basically the 2 major things that America is founded on. So it's like, that's not like, you're not really legit, right? And the other side of it is that they talk a lot about being constitutional originalists, right? And what that means is that they essentially, laws are rules, right? Like it's the set of rules that we've all agreed to in this game of life. And while many of the rules are based in like, yo, Susie, what's up? Well, many of our rules in America are based in Judeo-Christian values, meaning that, you know, like essentially coming from the 10 Commandments, right? Like don't steal, don't stay out of my China, for real though. But like it's like, so essentially what they've done is they've taken the idea of like, yeah, our laws are based on the Ten Commandments, more or less. Like I said, don't steal, don't kill. A lot of, maybe half of the Ten Commandments. Because, like, false gods, no one gives a shit, because you can have whatever gods you want in America. But so when they talk about Christian values, that's sort of what they're referencing. But what they do is they take it and they bastardize it, right? Because they take, like, the idea of, like, yes, we all agree that murder is not okay. And, you know, yes, that is something that's mentioned in the Bible. And then they're like, well, since that's mentioned in the Bible, then clearly the Bible is how we should be basing our country's laws, which is not the case, right? That would not hold up in a normal court of law. But in what's happening now basically is they've spent the last 50 years campaigning on this. Like, abortion rights is a huge moneymaker politically. It gets people motivated, people feel passionate about it, and at the same time, there's this society, like I said, where their entire purpose was to put justices in power that could overturn this decision. Which, so when this case came to the Supreme Court, and when the Supreme Court agreed to review it, because not everybody gets their case into a Supreme Court decision, right? Like, the Supreme Court, you have to petition the court, so you have to request that the court reviews your case, and then the court reviews all of those requests, and then they cherry pick essentially which ones that they want to rule on, which is like, I think it's kind of stupid. I even thought it was stupid when I was a kid and I first learned about it. But it's like, okay, fine, whatever. You can't review everything. All right. So it was first unusual that they picked this case because there is no new evidence, right? There's no new science. There's no new anything, except that now we have more Republicans, more conservatives in the court. And so that part was unusual. And then, like I said, it's real sus, right? And then because we could hear their arguments, you could already tell that, like, they want to overturn at least part. Like, the assumption was they would overturn part of Roe, right? Like, either there would be more restrictions on abortion rights, but, you know, it'll be fine. The brief that was leaked, however, is extreme. Not only, so there are two cases actually that uphold abortion rights in the United States, because we do not have a federal law protecting abortion. We have laws at the state side of things. Didn't we know this is where it would go? You pretty much, yeah. Like, it was pretty much assumed, literally as soon as Amy Coney Barrett, whatever the fuck her name is, was confirmed, it was assumed that this would be the court's like, the conservative Christians' best moment, their best opportunity to overturn Roe, to restrict abortion rights, right? And so the assumption was, when this case was heard, when the arguments were heard, that they would restrict rights. And so that was something that I think legally we were prepared for. Like, mentally, anybody who's paying attention was prepared for this. But the brief that they wrote is extreme, because there are two cases that uphold abortion rights. There's Roe versus Wade, which was passed first, that set a very clear schedule for abortions, right? Like, it has rules for the first trimester, the second trimester, and the third trimester. It has, so can you explain why they really care so much? So it's complicated. Okay, so the reason that they care isn't necessarily specifically about abortion rights. It's specifically about white supremacy, which I realize is like a leap to get there, right? But if you think about the initial case and the specific argument that they make in the brief is more around the 14th Amendment, which says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state in which wherein they reside, No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Hey, Queen Bowie. Yeah, so essentially, like, the argument is that liberty, specifically in that sentence where it says no, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property, the argument is that liberty is the only thing that is that was used to uphold abortion. And so, and the definition of liberty in the original 18, what is this, 1866, the 14th Amendment was passed. So in the original 1866 definition of liberty, that it does not include body autonomy, which is because they're arguing that, like, they didn't have abortion laws back then. Abortion was illegal back then, and so therefore you can't have the liberty to have an abortion. And it's like, yeah, right, like, leave us alone. So, but it's 100% to keep white men in power, because if you're gonna be an originalist, the original Constitution starts out by saying only white male landowners can vote, right? And that indigenous people cannot vote, and that if you are an indentured servant, you're not counted as, if you're an indentured servant, you're counted as a person, but if you're a slave, you're counted as 3/5 of a person. And so if you want to go way back, that's what you're talking about. And basically we've reached a point where white men feel left out, right? Like, we're all familiar with that story. Women, yeah, exactly. Women couldn't vote, and especially when Roe versus Wade was decided, women could not own a credit card in their name. They couldn't. They had no protections against sexual harassment in the office. They could be raped in their marriage legally. And so there's a lot of shit also that, like, came for women after Roe. And so the idea that, like, well, women are fine now, so they don't need Roe, is also bullshit. I love a lot of individual, yeah, as a country, it's not great. It's like, things not great, not so great. But yeah, essentially it's just this idea of, like, to get back to a place where white men have all the power, you need to systematically strip away the rights of minority groups, of which women are now a minority group in America. I learned during all this, we're 54% of the American population. So it's just like, what you doing? Well, in the modern, I think it's more a modern definition of white now, right? Because essentially, like, most people were like, yeah, I'm Irish or Italian. Like, no, your great 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 grandfather was Irish or Italian. You're just an American now, right? Like, you're just some American of European descent. Yeah, I know that early on that was a distinction that was made. It's essentially made every generation, right? Like, every few years there's a new group, and they're the ones that are discriminated against. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, honestly, reading the brief, it was super weak. Like, their argument is really honestly weak, and it's something that, it's unfortunate that so many of those 3 justices that were added in the last 4 years are so young. It's very unfortunate. But yeah, exactly. It's whoever's newest. If Fancy Pants Trudeau, I'm pretty sure Trudeau would get his fancy pants handed to him. But by making it a religious thing, they've, like, twisted people's minds to think that, well, you know, it's an attack on your religion by abortion existing, where it's actually the opposite, right? Like, it's imposing your religious beliefs on a broader population, which, like I said, is not, like, literally America. You got the fucking buckle hat pilgrims coming over to escape religious persecution. Like, that is the number one tentpole of America. Just like the founding fathers were all newspaper writers, which is why our freedom of speech is so strong, right? But essentially, there's this one. There's also a case that the Supreme Court's may be hearing about concealed carry, which is to say that the assumption is that the Supreme Court will essentially take away the states' rights to regulate guns and just say, well, everybody should be allowed to have a gun no matter what. And they should be allowed to do concealed carry no matter what. So it's very, very slippery slope. And while the focus right now is that, you know, by saying that we don't have a right to privacy, that they can effectively take away interracial marriage, same-sex marriage, same-sex adoption, and a litany of other things that all those decisions were founded partially in Roe versus Wade. So the problem is, if you overturn Roe versus Wade, then it makes all those other decisions vulnerable. But they've been attacking Roe versus Wade forever. Like, Planned Parenthood versus Casey was actually passed in 1992. It was a Supreme Court review. And that is actually the first thing that gutted Roe versus Wade, because what it did was it took away that firm schedule. It stripped away all the additional amendments that Roe versus Wade said were part of a woman's right to choose. And then what it did was it stripped all of them away and said it was just the 14th Amendment, and that abortion after the second no. It was like they changed the abortion thing, so it was just like, as long as it's not an undue burden upon the mother. But there's no definition of undue burden, and that's the whole thing. Is like, that's why English majors become lawyers, because everything about law is just how do you define the word and the context around the word, right? So, yeah. Church of Satan doing more civil rights. I mean, yeah. Right, like that could be argued, but essentially it's like they're trying to Handmaid's Tale us, because they're so thirsty to control the population. And the whole thing is like, originally I thought that a lot of their motivation was around, how do we create more wage slaves? So how do you keep a population so worried about their hierarchy of needs, you know, food, shelter, clothing, that they're so preoccupied with how do I get those three things that they can't even pay attention to anything else, right? And how do you do that? It's like, you have to keep people suppressed. It's why Amazon doesn't want people unionizing, right? Like, if you can keep people so busy that all they're focused on is how do I survive, then they can't see the bigger picture. And so you can do whatever the fuck you want to them. So that was originally what I thought it was, but this argument is so aggressive that it really seems like it is actually more rooted in, how do white men maintain power in the country? And so, yeah, they want to turn us into serfs. They want you to not pay attention. They want you to only focus on the 14th Amendment part of this and not understand that the litany of other cases that they reference in the brief. So like I'm just looking through it now. They reference, like, they tried to bring in decisions from Ginsburg into this to legitimize it, but it's a paperman argument. And the part that annoyed me the most was that the part of this argument is the viability of the child, or the fetus, out of the womb, right? And so they're like, well, what did they say? That it said the state of Mississippi asks us to uphold the constitutionality of a law that generally prohibits an abortion after the 15th week of pregnancy, several weeks before the point at which a fetus is now regarded as viable outside the womb. In defending this law, the state's primary argument is that we should reconsider and overrule. And they hold that Roe and Casey, so Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which is the second ruling that affirms Roe versus Wade, but also guts it. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision, which, honestly, I would argue the 14th Amendment literally says, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections of the law. Like, what the fuck? You're literally prohibiting people to pursue life. Like, I get it. They use the life thing for the fetus, but the life thing applies to the mother too. And even so, there's indentured servitude to the state. Fuck it. That's exactly it, right? And that's exactly it. Oh, man. And it's just... It's very... And it's like they talk about... Here, to support this act, the legislature made a series of factual findings. It began by noting that at the time of enactment, only 6 countries besides the United States permitted non-therapeutic or elective abortion on demand after the 20th week of gestation. The legislature then found that at 5 or 6 weeks gestational age, an, quote, unborn human being's heart begins beating, which is fucking bullshit. It is not the sound of a human heart beating. It is not. It is the sound of the amniotic fluid and the mother's heartbeat. Like, it's, the heartbeat laws are fucking bullshit. They've been disproven by science, and yet the Supreme Court is using these heartbeat laws to uphold this decision. So it's fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit, man. There is not a heart to beat, right? Like, that's it. There is nothing. They go on to say, at 8 weeks, the unborn, quote, unborn human being begins to move in the womb. At 9 weeks, all basic physiological functions are present. At 10 weeks, vital organs begin to function. So, like, you're telling me, like, even the way this is written, you literally can't have a heartbeat beating if you do not have vital organs in the fetus yet. It does not make sense. It doesn't. And the problem is we have no body to, like, no legislative body to overrule the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the referee, and instead they're trying to come in and play like they're the wrestler. And the thing is, Chief Justice Roberts, his argument about I believe it was last year, that the Supreme Court should not be politicized and should take their decisions moving forward under that guise, that we have to avoid taking a political stance, is because that's all the Supreme Court is a referee. All it takes is us being like, well, fuck you, we're not going to do it. Because they do not create laws. They only interpret laws. That is all they do, is interpret laws and tell us what that law means. And so it's fucking bullshit. Susie, exactly. And that's the thing. Statistically, it's 60-something percent, 70% of women who have abortions already have children. It's like they just cannot afford to have more children. That's the whole point. Long con since the slave days. Pretty much. Hey, Long Run, by the way. How's it going? Oh, but yeah, like, I've just been so heated about this. And like I said, all it takes is for us to be like, well, fuck you. You're like, this is WWE ref now. They're trying to be like an official referee, like American football referee, where, you know, all the teams, all the people playing agree that they are the one. Like an NFL referee, they can fine you for showboating after scoring a touchdown, right? And everybody's agreed that that is what should be done. And maybe you don't like it, but you agree that that is the rule and you agree to follow the rule. But guess what? We're in fucking WWE now, baby. Like, people busting out chairs and ladders. And what's the ref gonna do? Honestly, what is the Supreme Court gonna do if the people revolt? Nothing. They have no power. They have no legislative power at all. At all. What would I do if I could? What would I do about what? So I've been ranting about this so hard, and like, this is not the first legal precedent that I've ranted about over the years, but I think that, you know, every time I rant about it, people tell me, like, just run for office, right? And it's like, maybe that's not my thing. Maybe it is. Who knows? But I firmly believe that all this time and energy that I've put into understanding what's going on, that I want all of you guys to understand what's going on too, right? Because this is not a woman's issue. This is a human issue. It does not only affect women, it affects men as well, right? Because not only is the woman's life possibly in danger, because we have one of the highest mortality rates for women giving birth, but it's also a men's issue, because guess what? Men are 100% responsible for pregnancies. Women can only get pregnant 2 days out of the month. That means that you have 24 chances to get pregnant in a year, in 365 days. How many chances do men have to get somebody pregnant in a year? Over 365. 365 assumes they're only ejaculating once a day. And a lot of men can ejaculate more than once a day. So guess what, boys? You know, you don't think this is your problem. This is your problem too. And that is honestly, wait, I just saw anal. What is going on? We all knew this was going to happen when they elected Mrs. Yep, we all knew Mrs. Handmaid's Tale, that they're trying to turn us into the Handmaid's Tale. Flying Hawaiian. Why does that sound so familiar? Why am I coughing 4 times? Ranting is cool, being educated and learning is cool, but what would you change? Oh, so I'm a man, and the news this week has made me want to adopt instead of bio kids. Keep the birth rate low. I mean, adoption, if you can afford it, because adoption is, that's the other thing too. It's like, when people are like, oh, well, you know, like, you just put the kid up for adoption. Like, you don't know where the fuck that kid's gonna end up, first of all. Second of all, adoption, if you want to be an adopter, right? If you want to adopt a child, you gotta have fucking money, dude. Like, you have to have at least 10 grand. It just to cover the fees alone. And some adoption processes can take $20,000 to $30,000 to complete. At least, minimum, right? So it's just like, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. But this isn't the only thing, right? Like, this is the beginning of us losing our autonomy in multiple aspects. Damn, your sister's doing the fucking work. 7 kids. God damn. Whew. Yeah, the bio kid thing, not easy either. That's not an easy road either, right? And the thing is, like, what, they're gonna take away what? My right to have a bank account in my own name? My right to have a credit card? My right to sue over sexual harassment? My right to, you know, fucking throw my husband in jail if he rapes me, and not that I'm married. But there's a lot of shit that this is connected to. And, like, yes, I get that, like, the talking point is typically that, you know, they're like, well, LGBT rights are next. And what the media is doing is they're trying to drum up, like, get people enraged, right? Trying to expand this argument beyond just women, because a lot of people don't give a shit about women. Like, medicine doesn't give a shit about women. The workplace doesn't give a shit about women. Politics doesn't give a shit about women. Like, women effectively are still second class after everything else, right? It's like, being a woman already puts you a step behind the 8 ball. And now they're trying to put you in the fucking Handmaid's Tale fucking bullshit. But if I could, like, going back to Susie's question, if I could change anything, it would be that Supreme Court appointments are lifetime, or for the life of the justice. I would look to restrict how much time somebody can spend in the Supreme Court, because while we've seen conservative justices become liberal, or, you know, in the past we've seen justices actually follow the traditions of the Supreme Court because they don't have really many rules. uh we're at a point where, like, we have a lot of very young justices, and so it is in our best interest to limit it. There is the idea of expanding the court, which has been done twice in the history of the United States. uh it is something that I'm not sure would actually solve anything, because once again, they're still lifetime appointments, which is also the issue we have in politics in general, right? In our legislative body, in the Senate and the Congress, we don't have term limits, and so you have people that have been in the Senate for literally their entire lives. And we had, like, one dude who was like 86, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm running for re-election in 2 years." And it's like, bro, you fucking 86. You're gonna be 96 by the time you're out of office. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. The problem is, because politics can be a career, which I do not believe it should be a career, because that is actually a constitutional originalist idea. The founding fathers, they tried to instill the idea that, while yes, as a public servant you should be paid, and, you know, you're doing you know, you're in service to the people of your area, the issue is that, why don't I run for politics? So that is something that I've thought about for a long time. We'll see when I get back from getting my MBA what happens. In general, I'm not really politics material, right? I got crazy hair, I'm fat, I'm fucking New Yorker, I curse, I tell the truth, like, I tell people, like, no, you fucking up, right? Like, there's a lot of things about me that are not politically viable, but at the same time, what the fuck do I have to lose, right? Oh yeah, new emotes are in there. You don't trust your parents. When's the last time you saw a person over 80 that you thought you'd trust with your life in a crisis? It's true, though. It's true. Like, very few people. Like, when you're 80 fucking years old, you don't want to just chill, right? Like, you don't want to just enjoy the last few years of your life. Like, the idea that you're immortal is fucking stupid. We are all mortal. We all have a very limited amount of time on this earth. And the idea that you're gonna spend your time in your fucking suit and tie, fucking shoving your ass in some, like, fancy ass chair and falling asleep, the fuck out of here. The fuck out of here. Who the fuck would want to do that? The face is back. I didn't realize that I had moved the face to another tier. Exactly, the hubris of it all, like, the ego involved in this is astronomical. Like, just the whole idea that like, the part that is probably the most infuriating to a lot of people is that the "my body, my choice" was a very common term here during the height of the pandemic to argue against mandatory vaccines and mask usage. And so it's very hard to deal with the conservative population in America, because there's a lot of double talk. They will tell you you're not allowed to have an abortion, but then they'll say, it's freedom of choice. The Supreme Court investigating the leak is a perfect example. The Supreme Court Chief Justice Roberts argued in a not argued, but he put out a statement that said that it is imperative that the Supreme Court be able to operate with the normal levels of security of information that they are accustomed to, which essentially means we have a right to privacy. Okay? But where is this right to privacy? You literally have a statement that says that liberty does not equal privacy or body autonomy, and yet you want to protect your own privacy as an institution for what? Also, like, for what? What are you afraid of? The plan originally was to issue this brief the last day that they're in session. So they were going to issue the brief, go on vacation for 3 months, and hope that we forgot about it. Oh, man. Parents are excellent. Oh, man. Well, that's the thing. Like, the whole Six Flags all has like Six Flags over. Oh, okay. I thought you meant like Six Flags, the amusement park, for a second. I'm like, he's got Six Flags? Like, who's his dad? But yeah, like, it's hard. Like, I even see it in my own parents, right? Like, my dad has always been on the conservative side of things. My mom, I would say moderate, right? And even so, like, hearing them talk about things like, you know, like, AOC is too brash. She's too outspoken. She needs to know her place. Like, to hear that out of the parents who raised me to always speak my mind, to always stand up for what was right, it's hard, right? Like, it feels like a cognitive dissonance, but at the same time, the older you get, the scarier change becomes, right? And I'm sure a lot of us see this just with TikTok alone, right? Like, I know a lot of people between 25 and 30 that fear TikTok. They're like, I don't get it. It's just this thing for young kids. Even Snapchat, right? Like, for me, I was like, when I was in my 20s, I was like, I'm too old for Snapchat. The no UI, you had to automatically memorize the gestures. I'm like, I don't have time for that. And so it's this fear of change. It's our little lizard brain that just hates change. And so, you know, that's part of it too. Kamala is like a wash here in the States. Like, nobody really talks about her. She hasn't done anything except get COVID. Like, Kamala is fine, but she's also problematic. Like, the decisions that she made as a prosecutor in California are extremely problematic. Like, she is essentially part of this legal problem that we're in today. Because she upheld a lot of very stringent, like, tough on crime laws, which is problematic. Work with a guy in his 60s that is stoked about being replaced because he wants to retire. See? You would think if you worked so hard, and politics is not easy either, right? It's a lot of negotiation, it's a lot of wheeling and dealing, and like, yeah, that shit's fun. But like, don't you just want to enjoy life? Like, you manipulated the stock market, you did insider trading, you've got millions and millions of dollars because of your role in the government. But don't you want to enjoy it? That part I don't really get. I mean, AOC is interesting because she had a very tough re-election. She's actually the representative for the district that starts like 3 blocks from where I live. She had a very, very difficult re-election. So what happened was, I'd say the year of the election, she all of a sudden toned down everything, right? And since then, you don't really hear from her because she has turned into a career politician, just like all the rest of them. And my feeling is, like, if I went into politics, I would approach it the same way I approach my day job, right? Like, if you're gonna fire me, if the people aren't happy with me and they're gonna fire me, fucking fire me. Find another fucking job. But she has no other job. Like, that is the problem. Even with AOC, she was a waitress, and I get it, a bartender, right? She's actually a bartender at a place I've been to a few times. She was a bartender, and so I get it. You don't want to go back to that blue collar life, right? You have it nice and easy. You're making, I think, $140 a year. You got the best health coverage money can buy. You've got a pension that you're working towards. I get it. I get it. Those are all things that are very, very hard to give up when you don't have a career to, an actual career to fall back on. If you pay attention to the people who leave Congress after usually 2 to 3 terms, they're all people who had successful careers before. And I've seen interviews with them. Nobody ever talks about these people, but essentially in the interviews they say, listen, I came here for a explicit purpose. I have accomplished that purpose. I've served my people. My time is over. I'm going back to my private life. Right? And a lot of them do it for different reasons. Some of them, they didn't like being so far away from home, whatever it may be. But the idea is that as a politician, you should have an actual skill and career. Like, politics should not be a career. And that is essentially the poison well of our entire legal system, is that people make careers out of decision-making powerful positions when they are positions that should be not like disseminated across the population, but they should not be holding on to them in their fucking Madonna claws, right? Like, get the fuck out of here. And it's like the idea that we only have one millennial in the one millennial in the Senate. One. Mate. It's just, and then they're like, well, millennials aren't running. What? Motherfucker, who, like, first of all, where am I getting the money to run? Okay? Because that shit costs money. You know how AOC talks about, oh, I walked the streets, I did it grassroots way. No, motherfucker had a huge PAC backing her. She had this huge progressive organization that she applied to. They took her on and they gave her fuck tons of money. That is how she got elected. She not only, like, yes, she did her time, she, knocked on doors, she talked to people, but she had huge money, powerful, well-connected machine behind her. And that is, like, the fact that, like, that's not something that she's willing to talk about is a huge problem. Like, AOC has a lot of fucking problems. Like, she came in guns blazing and then decided to take her career. She came in as like, I'm the grassroots person, and took big money. So it's like, the idea, like, there is nobody who is untouched in politics. And the idea that, like, she's become this, like, symbol of a generation is fucking bullshit, dude. It's bullshit. Oh, let's see. Smoke weed every night? I do not. I actually try not to. It still really bothers me that there are states where people are in prison for 20+ years for weed. Yep. That is a huge problem, and they're not willing to do anything about it, because then they would have to actually spend time and effort to do it, and it's not popular enough to get reelected. That's really important to remember, too. It's like, we don't just elect our congressmen, even our state congressmen, like or assemblymen. We elect the people that also keep people in jail. And it's really important, number one, to vote, and don't be fucking lazy about it. Get an absentee ballot. Like, I vote at my parents' house, which is a pain in the ass, but you just gotta do it. Like, you gotta fucking figure it out. You gotta vote, and you gotta actually research the people you're voting. So part of the reason that the Republican Party has been able to have such a stranglehold is that Republicans traditionally just vote R down the ballot. They don't give a shit what anybody does as long as there's an R next to their name. But to actually have change in our system, to actually remove this, like, incestuous bullshit, and the Democrats have it too. The Democrats absolutely have it. But so to remove that incestuous bullshit, you actually gotta research the people. You have to look them up, contact them on Twitter, call them up. Like, they legally, they are responsible to you. There is nothing like you can call up your congressperson and be like, I don't know how to file my taxes, and they will help you. You can call them up and say, listen, like, they're like the fucking hooligans on my block are, you know, being too loud at night. You call them up. You call them up for anything that you fucking want to, because guess what? It's their job to fucking listen. And they don't want you knowing that. They don't want you reaching out to them. And they love it that you email. Oh, they love an email, because guess what? They have an intern just go through the inbox and auto reply to that shit. It is copy and paste. Just like how it's so easy for you to contact them, they just copy and paste that shit. And what they do is they take your email and they add it to their email list, and then they sell your fucking data. And that's how they make money. But the idea that, like, you gotta just put in the work. You gotta at least vote and see who you're voting for. Don't just fucking blindly vote. Oh shit. We love a clean bed. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I hate changing my sheets, but I do it every week, and there's nothing like it, right? You get them sheets like all nice and like all set up, new pillowcase, everything smells great, smells like your delicious Tide laundry detergent, and then you could just like flop in the bed and everything's just so nice and fluffy. It's great. I love a clean bed. Absolutely love it. Is it ever really going to end, though? Like, every society in history has people in power. No, it will never end. That's why it's important to know who you're putting into power and to be willing to remove them from power, right? Like, even, honestly, the current mayor of New York City is the fucking worst. And I've already decided I will not vote for him in a re-election. I voted for him this time because the Republican choice was fucking batshit insane. He was this TV personality, like fucking neighborhood watch dude who wears a beret and would be on the local news all the time. He was literally insane. But Eric Adams is a fucking terrorist in our government here in New York City. Legitimately a terrorist. And so I will happily vote Republican in the next election just to see him not get reelected. And at this point, I think that the batshit insane guy probably would have been a better choice. But yeah, that's all you can do is vote or run for office, even local office. Did you know that there are local positions at like every level, right? In New York City, there's a position, the councilman position, which pays $120,000 a year. They only have to do one thing every year. They have to vote on our budget. That's it. That's all they have to do is approve the budget. That is their entire job, is to approve the budget. They get paid $120,000 a year, and they can have a full-time job on top of that. And so, fuck it. Run for councilman. Figure out what in your local government will pay you. That's easy. And do it. And then you can be part of the change, right? In turn. Like, you can stir up some trouble. And you know what? If you don't get reelected, who the fuck cares? You still got a job. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can always figure out a way to make money. And that's the root of all this shit, is people are afraid of change, and they're afraid of losing their financial security. And you can't live in fear. You can't. All you can do is fight. Because there's always going to be a way to make money. There's always going to be a way to figure out how to survive. But there won't always be a better world to live in. And that's what you gotta do. You gotta be the fucking change you want to see in the world, man. And that's not bullshit. Like, even the smallest thing makes a difference. If I was rich, I'd have my bed changed every day, yo. If I was rich, I would have someone else change my bed for me. I have 3 dogs, so it's clean just the first day. Listen, Taco, if honestly, local politics are it. Even even at the town level, they pay good money and it's easy work, right? And like I said, you can have another job on the side, you could do whatever the fuck else you want. It's easy. It's easy money. Be part of it, man. Like there is nothing stopping you except figuring out where the form is to fill out. That's basically it. You fill out the form, maybe knock on a few doors, make a couple flyers, and you know what? You see what happens, right? And also, it's really important to look for positions that people are running unopposed and people or people that have done it forever and nobody knows who they are or what they do. Because if you can get an ounce of name recognition, you can win. And then, you know, you get that fucking money, man. You get that sweet government money. You get that sweet government pension. Or don't, whatever, you know, but there's nothing stopping it. Yo, handicapper, what up? I think I am almost at the end of my rant. Unless anybody else has any questions about constitutional law. But like, yeah, fucking fill those local government positions. Fuck these old people. Fuck them, man. You go out there and you get that shit. You fucking stir shit up. So hot right now. That is something. Why did this not finish downloading? Duck 'em, exactly. I grew up in my town and now live here again. See? If you don't know, guess what? Taco. All that takes is you go to the fucking grocery store. Go stand outside your local grocery store and be like, yo, I'm running for office. Here's my name. My name's Taco Tuesday. I'm the official Taco Tuesday. You like tacos? Vote for me. I'll get you a Taco Tuesday. Fuck it. Fucking stand out there with tacos. Be like, yo, I'm official Taco Tuesday. Vote for me. And all you need is somebody to remember your name. They don't even have to actually remember your name. They just have to be like, hey, I see this name here. Official Taco Tuesday. That looks familiar. You know, fuck it, I'll vote for him. Whatever. Because guess what? People don't fucking research that shit. But you're gonna research that shit. When in your next election, you're going to research who is on that ballot. You are going to call your representatives and demand shit from them. Demand that they do their fucking job. People trying to get away with doing no goddamn work. Get out of here. I forgot that about handicappers, Susie. Oh. Listen, even 8 million people, you probably only...
Turn down for what? Turn down for what?
Thank you, Queen Bowie. But listen, 8 million people, there's probably 200,000 of them vote. You're telling me you can't get 100,000 people to remember who you are? Shit. Come on, man. You could do it. That's right. It always scares me because I'm not listening to anything right now. But yeah, like, there's no reason why anybody shouldn't be pursuing local office. If you give a shit about anything in your town, if you have any interest in trying to make where you live a better place, get involved. It really is not that hard. It's not. I worked in a local town hall on Long Island. It is not hard to get elected in a lot of these smaller government positions. Of course, then you get to like bigger cities, it gets harder, right? But still, what do you have to lose? You know, you spend $50 on some fucking flyers. You spend a couple afternoons standing out there handing them out. Yes, our time is valuable and time is finite, but wouldn't you be better off spending your time trying to change the world around you than sitting back and just letting shit go by? Letting these fucks get away with things? You gotta be ready to fight, man. You gotta be in it. Joke's on you, I don't give a shit. Listen, that's your prerogative. I appreciate it. But man, somebody's got to give a shit. Somebody's got to. Why the fuck is Steam not fucking working for me? I'm supposed to be playing fucking pod racing right now, and this shit's not working. Not working. You're really gonna make me close it and reopen it, aren't you? Oh, bastard. Bastard. But yeah, like, you know, guys, we can do it. I mean, shit. We managed to get Loudmouth to stay up for 7 days. There's nothing in this world that we can't accomplish. Forgot the guy's name, but it was centered in, like, Arkansas. Yeah, no, like, exactly. It does not. I mean, although he may have been in a rural part of Arkansas. Let's look it up. Let's look it up. Senator list. Or Senate list, maybe? Whatever. Get out of here. All right. So, who do we have for Arizona? Well, Mark Kelly is the former astronaut. Kristen Sinema took well, you didn't say Arizona, you said Arkansas. Arkansas. John Boozman, Tom Cotton's been around for a while. And this thing, the class, this is actually in our Constitution in America, where it's a thing to, it's said to, I mean, I have a Constitution up in another tab, but still. Basically to maintain the stability of our legislative body, they have elections in one of three. You're part of one of three election cycles. So every 2 years, you're either in class 1, 2, or 3, and that depends when your re-election is going to be. Let's see, Boozman. Oh yeah. See, look at this. You're telling me you guys know how to use fucking Squarespace? Put up a fucking website, run for office. God damn. God damn. Let's see. Let's see. Votes into office, maybe? Oh, electoral votes probably is what I wanted. Oh, oh, he was an incumbent. He's currently running for re-election. Is on the ballot May 24th of this month. This year. He didn't really face anybody. Like, who the fuck is Colin? Yeah, he makes, look at this, 174 grand. His net worth is 3.5 million. How you think he got to 3.5 million? Insider trading. Hundo P. They don't call it insider trading because they don't know actual information about the business, but it is because they know shit about 11 years, though. He probably has been around for a while. Exactly. They don't want total anarchy. Exactly. Oh. Susie's giving fashion advice over here. All right. Did we get a Star Wars done? We perhaps got a Star Wars done. Oh, yeah. What? No, it says install. What the fuck? This fucking shit. But yeah, all right. We'll stick to just chatting for a minute. But yeah, I think I've cooled on the politics for a minute, at least. Yo, Mark Kelly is awesome. Him and his twin brother, both astronauts, right? How fucking cool is that? And then because, very tragically, Mark Kelly's wife was shot in the head by a fucking nutcase, because she was also an elected official. She did an interview. maybe 6 months ago now on, I want to say it was 60 Minutes. It was on one of the like weekly news shows. And like she has a traumatic brain injury, right? From being shot in the head, as I would assume anyone who survives being shot in the head would. And, but her whole thing is like, you got to just keep fighting, right? Like that is literally her whole life philosophy right now, which is amazing. But yeah, Mark Kelly decided he was in space, right, when it happened. He came back, retired from NASA, but his twin brother kept going up to space. And then what NASA did was because they're identical twins, they actually were able to use their difference. Yeah, Gabrielle Giffords, that's it. Yo, Gabrielle Giffords is fucking amazing. Amazing, amazing person. She was amazing before. Now she's even more so. Um yeah, and Susie, it was at a she was like it was at like not a rally, but it was I think they were like an opening of something. She was giving a speech in public, right? Like a political speech in public. And this nut job came into the crowd and shot a whole bunch of people. He killed a bunch of people. It was very, very sad. But Mark Kelly and his brother, because they're twins, NASA was able to send his twin back up to space again. And they used them to compare how prolonged time in space affects the human body, because essentially because they're identical twins, they have a control subject that was here on Earth while his brother was out there in space. It's fucking bonkers bananas. Oh, it's all right, Queen Bowie. What matters? Everybody believes government should run differently, and we'll, yeah, like everybody's got something to offer in government and helping form our society in general, you know? Don't just be a passenger on this ride, you know? Fucking pitch in. Pitch in. All right, so what's going on, podcast racing? You crashed? Crashed? Fucking launch, you jerk off. What? Yes, you can, like, look at my shit. Why won't you run, though? Fucking run. I get scared that we'll get old and turn into them. We will. It's inevitable. Wow, this game, this Steam, what are you doing to me? Steam's really killing me tonight. Really. Absurdly killing me. I mean, hopefully I can get it working. I'm very, be young forever now. Well, that's the whole thing, right? Live fast, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. That's our only option. My grandmother always said, "Don't get old," and I was always like, "Yeah, I get it. You know, don't get old. Right? Getting old sucks." But man, that lady was right. Smart lady. And it's funny too because my grandmother, so like my grandfather was a law school professor and a law librarian. And so my grandmother only had a high school diploma, but it wasn't until like I don't know, maybe what this is really getting annoying. Sorry. Um it was only maybe a year or two before she passed that like we were asking her, you know, about growing, like not growing. She never liked to talk about her childhood because she grew up in the Great Depression, literally didn't eat. Um, but we asked her like something about like I forget what it was, but she was talking about, you know, being with my grandfather and like being at all these fancy events and stuff. Like my grandfather met presidents and shit like that. But wow, this game does not work. I'm extremely disappointed. I want my money back. What else do I got installed? Oh, Star Wars Squadrons. How about that? Play. Will this play? Okay. Uh, the anyway, so like her whole thing was she was like, "Oh, I'm not that smart," right? And but like even though my grandmother wasn't like she didn't attend college or anything, she only like I said had a high school diploma. She was very very clever, very ingenious, right? Like very in um like able to fucking do anything with nothing, right? And this handicapper in court with the unkept mouth mullet. I mean, who cares, man? What are they doing? They judging you in court? um, but yeah, like we found out that she was like, "Oh yeah, I got a scholarship to go to my high school." Because that's what it was. My mom was like, "You were dirt poor. How did you afford to go to a private high school?" And she goes, "Well, I qualified for a scholarship." And we were like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, only two." She goes, "They picked one boy and one girl from my school, and we had to take a test." And she goes, "I don't know. I guess I did all right on the test because I got accepted. I got accepted into this prestigious high school, and I got to go to this private high school for free." And I was just like, "Yo!" I was like, "Grandma, you fucking smart as hell. Like, what?" And she was just like, "Oh, no, no, no. Like, no, I'm not educated. Like, I'm not smart, whatever." And we were like, we looked it up later and it was like this, like, fucking batshit crazy, like, you're a genius and gonna go places kind of thing. And she was just so cavalier about it. She was just like, "Oh, yeah, it was nothing. Whatever." Oh, man. All right, Taco Tuesday says, "I had a super cool grandma that once yelled at my mom because she told us to quit playing so many video games, or so much video games. Grandma was like, 'Those boys are sitting together on the couch and playing with each other, and you're complaining about it? People used to tell me that reading so much would make my eyes go bad. Who cares?'" That is awesome philosophy. Awesome philosophy. I love it. Error. I must have an EA account. Get the fuck out of here. Yo, this is really, guys, this night's, we were on some rails. We've been off rails a little bit. We're on rails. We're way off rails now, trying to open up a fucking Star Wars game on Star Wars Day. But yeah, may the 4th be with us all in these trying, difficult times. The world is an interesting place. You know, you don't like it, you gotta change it, right? You gotta be part of that change. We got music now? Oh shit, it's loud. Loud as hell. Let's turn it down then. Will you not just work at all now?